questions.
The attorneys are all on the same page on the
Yes,
major issues.
yep, everybody's finally there, so we're ready to go.
That must feel good for you guys.
Yeah, it does.
So what do we need to approve, just the master services agreement?
It's, yeah, the master services agreement and the work order. I mean, it's we just called it the Dick Anderson construction contracts. The work order is part of this, which will be made as an exhibit for each one. So if you just do the master agreement or construction contracts, that'll cover it.
Any questions, comments, concerns from the board? All right, can I have a motion to approve the Dick Anderson construction contracts? Got a motion, any additional comments? Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Let's just get somebody in.
Yeah, they will be really excited. They're insurance.
6 of them.
I hope you're right, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, item number 2, capital project, gate 1 and 5, loading bridge rollers.
Yes, so when SkyCon came out, we have them come out every 1 or 2 years. They did find some items that they felt like needed replaced. The rollers in particular, which allows those sections to kind of glide together, need replaced on 2 of the bridges. One's worse than the other. But they are fairly expensive because that's all got to be taken apart and the rollers put in and put back together. About a $50,000 improvement. The life of those is about 15 years, and Gate 1 is coming up on its 15th birthday, so that kind of makes sense. Gate 5 is an older bridge. I don't really have exceptional maintenance records on that one, but it's used much less. So it should last longer than 15 years. It's only used a few times a week. So $50,000 will keep these bridges moving along, and should give us an extended life on both bridges.
Any questions, comments, concerns from the board? All right, can I have a motion to authorize the contract for the replacement of rollers on gate 1 and gate 5 loading bridges?
I'll move.
Got a motion? Any additional comments, questions? Can I get a second? All right, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Ayes have it. Item number 3, capital project, purchase or refurbish loading bridge for gate 2.
Yes, Gate 2, as we mentioned when SkyCon came out to look at our bridge, it's in need of some fairly significant improvements. The bridge itself was bought from Delta. It sort of used, it was in place, and now it's coming up on sort of the end of its life. And so we have 2 options. We can either refurbish that bridge. Refurbishment in this case is a little more expensive than normal because this has a known problem with the cab. It needs to be strengthened. The cab is the part that rotates this way. Some people call it the rotunda, I think. Oh, actually, the rotunda is usually up top. The cab's usually what I call the bottom. But anyway, the cab needs some strengthening to ensure that it doesn't break off of the bridge itself on this particular model. So it's a little more pricey than normal. The other option would be to buy an all-new bridge. And I think the airlines were as surprised as we were about what the cost of both those options were. It wasn't even 15 years ago we bought a brand new bridge for $387. And so both these costs are much higher than they were 15 years ago. But as the airlines kind of puzzled over the idea of refurbishing versus buying a new one, they kind of came back and said, well, find the best deal you can. So they're kind of in the same spot as us, and there's value in paying less, but also that additional 5 or 10 years that you can expect out of the superstructure being brand new is also a decent thought. And so our plan from here would be we'll reach out to the couple of providers of these and see kind of where we can get the best deal and what would it cost for actual refurbishment. What do you have on hand that we might be able to buy, maybe something that somebody else designed, Do we tag onto that order and get another unit? And that kind of thing, and see where we can get the best value for our money. But we would like the board at this point to approve either option. We didn't get strong feedback from the airlines. They see benefit in both of those. And we're gonna do our best to find the best deal and get something going on gate 2.
Any rebates for the old bridge?
Yeah, I think we'd probably get some scrap
We
value out
could
of
get
it.
some value out of it, probably not a lot.
They can't use
When
it.
you get a refurbished bridge, if you bought one from, say, Skycon, and they refurbish it at their facility, it's probably an old one that came from Denver or Las
Phoenix.
Vegas.
Is this one they could potentially refurbish or not?
Yeah, it's just,
Probably not gonna be worth their time to move one bridge, just, when Denver or Phoenix or Utah lets loose, and their bridges, oftentimes they get rid of them because their geometrics are so tight, because a lot of times it's a U shape, so they need a bridge of a very specific length. And so they might go 8 years down the road and they redesign a concourse expansion and they've got an 8-year-old bridge that's trashed. So that's kind of how Skytime gets the bridges that they refurbish, is a lot of times they're fairly new bridges, but then they're able to get 10 of them, and so it's worth it to get a trucking contract and haul those back to their facility and build them out again. Whereas ours, I think it's just probably too far, one bridge, probably not worth their time.
it's about 3 trucks that need one. Pretty expensive to move them, cranes on both ends.
The last ones we replaced all went to steel accelerate.
Yeah, the other one was pretty well used up.
How many companies buy these?
I think there's 3. I'm not sure one of them is still out there. There's 2 at least. And there was a third for a while, but I don't even know if they're.
Yeah, there's a bridge, which is back east or Midwest. The new ones is JBT, which is part of Oshkosh really. And then ThyssenKrupp, like the elevator company, they build some with their high-end all glass.
On glass.
Some competition out
Kinda.
there. Yeah, they probably call each other.
All right, it's a happy duopoly.
Even though they're all getting their steel from the same place anyways.
So, in your opinion, he was better, probably.
Yeah, I think Ryan, the maintenance foreman, when I talked to him last, he was pretty confident that we could get a good useful life out of what we have out there. And I think if we could get a reasonable refurbishment proposal, maybe, if we were, I'd feel better if we were under 400,000, honestly, because then you're kind of half what it would be to buy new, and I'm pretty confident it'll last half as long as the new one. But you look at the new one we have, Gate 1. It's needing $50,000 in repairs right now, and that's only, when we buy that one around
2011.
2011. So they're expensive pieces of equipment.
I would tend to lean towards refurbishment. That's,
By refurbishment, you mean refurbishment of existing, not acquiring a refurbished one? Where's the downtime?
Weeks, it might be down for what, a month or so.
Yeah, I wouldn't, if they do it on site, it's probably 3 weeks, depending on what all they do. On Bridge 2, they have to lift the whole tunnel system off of that rotunda because there's a bad bearing in that. And to do that, you have to, lift it clear off of there. And, that's an additional expense there. And then the cab structure needs to be, I think, reinforced or something on that one. You're gonna get 15 years out of a refurbished one and 20+ years out of a new one, probably.
I was gonna say, I'd liken it to, you get a car that just hit 100,000 miles. You put some money into it, or you start thinking about, looking at something different, right? You might get another 100,000, but that's probably a more painful 100,000 than the first.
These are refurbished, they really just the skeleton of it, and then all new components, you know, however far you wanna go. We do all the control systems and
Carpet,
tires, wheels, carpet, jack screws, motors, all that stuff, so it's really, most of it's pretty new. The rotunda, we've never really done a lot on that, on a refurbishment, but this one is in need of that.
do you think they do the wall panels on the rotunda and everything?
Well, that's what I was just gonna bring up, those are pretty bad on that one too, so those probably would need replaced.
You know, the metal, when you look at the side of it, the metal that's on the outside on that one is, you know, there's some crumbling in there. Because those panels have to slide together, you know, so over time, as it gets less and less, it's more rigid, I guess is the best way to say it. They start to bind, and so you get, you know, wear and tear, you know, in these things that you think of as structural, but they're really not. Those are pieces that can be replaced. So that's kind of the rub of it, right? And if you're confident the bones are good, the refurbishment's a pretty good deal, but, you know, if you buy new, you know you have new everything.
So looking down the road a bit, on page 37 of the board packet, when you're talking about phasing, saying like acquiring a new or refurbished gets us to 30 to 40 years, but refurbishing the existing gets us to 15 to 20. You know, to Commissioner Lalonde's thing of refurbishing, I wonder if we do refurbish and it does extend life only 15 to 20 years, then it looks like gate 2 and gate 5
Right.
could be hitting a critical point within just a couple of years of each other. Is that
Right.
is that an accurate read of what you're saying?
That's exactly it, and if you look at how we've kind of done our snow plan, we've tried to draw out those major acquisitions over 10 years so that we're not replacing the entire fleet. The same is kind of true with these loading bridges. If we do a refurbishment, we'll likely have, you know, every one of those bridges on top of each other in terms of, you know, replacement. And, you know, we already have several refurbished bridges. We have, you know, 5 out there, which it doesn't get much use, so 5's kind of a wild card. It could last a long time, you know, but if we get another airline in there and it is being used more often, that bridge is probably not long for this world. I mean, over 10 years and it's probably got to go. And then we have 4 was refurbished, 3 was refurbished, right?
Yeah, we bought both of those refurbished.
Yep, and then 1 was bought new, so, but it was bought nearly 15 years ago. So we're kind of half-life on that one, then we'll need a refurbishment. So, you know, one nice thing about buying a new one now is it gives us a better phasing plan, you know, of, you know, okay, we won't have a major $1 million expense, you know, for probably 30 years. We might have an interim refurb of half that, but it's sure better than piling $1 million on top of another one needing replaced in $1 million. And so I think that's one of the things when we talk to the airlines, kind of move the needle towards, hey, buy new. So like, yeah, we see that. I mean, you know, you guys are doing your best trying to phase these costs out. But if we get hit with a giant wave of them all at once, then the recovery, because we charge them to the airlines over, I think, 15 or 20 years. And so the recovery will all hit at once, and so we'll have a big payment. So I think that's part of it too. If we are confident we can get a refurbished, kind of 400,000 numbers where I start to think maybe we should just get rid of it and see what we can get out of the new one.
Yeah,
You're
also
saying
have to
that-
look at their expected inflation to go up a little next
That's
year,
what
so
I'm
in
trying to-
terms
Yeah.
of 4 or 5%, that's 35,000 per year.
Right.
That
Not getting
goes
cheaper.
forward. They're not gonna get any cheaper.
And we see that now. I mean, you know,
I mean, it's double the price since the last one.
And the airlines are agnostic on whether or not you acquire a new or a new to us. Like,
Right.
they don't care.
No,
Do you care?
No,
Whether we buy a new or purchase a refurbished?
right, I mean, I think,
Because we say new and.
right, I mean, if I felt like there was a better market for them, you know, for refurbished right now, I'd be more confident we could get one. Last time we talked to them, they didn't even have a refurbished candidate, did they, Rod?
No, they have to bring one in from one of the airports they were working at.
Yeah,
That
and
was
so,
getting replacements.
so that's another unknown is, you know, I mean, obviously we can get a new one, you know, but, you know, will they even have one they can refurbish at the time, you know, now when we're trying to get something going? And how long would it take to even get that? You know, because if that's longer than a year, you know, I don't know that this bearing isn't gonna seize in the next 2 years, and then we're gonna have a real problem. You know, and so, I mean, we've gotta just really get down to brass tacks with a couple providers on what's the best you can do for us, and, you know, and then to make a value determination as to where we're getting the best deal.
Look, I mean, a bearing can be replaced. I mean, it's, just jack it up, take it out, put a new one in, drop a race, squirt some grease and go. I mean, I understand it's aviation, so it costs 20 times what it should, but it's a bearing. And we have
Well,
planes flying from the
It's a little more than just a bearing, though. It's, that pedestal's holding the whole weight of one end of that bridge, and it's rotates on there, but it's like a brass bushing, more or less, not just a.
It's not a conical bearing in a race.
Yeah, and so.
And then it's gotta be able to take the force of, because those wheels are pulling that tunnel in and out, so that all that force is sideways, around, up and down.
And if we do anything with the bridge, the other thing we have to do is fix that cab. I think Skycom is pretty clear on that. We need to do something with that because it eventually can separate.
And this is all authority funds, this doesn't qualify for.
It's authority, no, it wouldn't be eligible for any of our grant funding.
Solar panel.
But the airlines do
Shields
pay us
loading
back,
bridge.
so, the airlines pay us back amortization over 20 years, and we did it at our, the language in there is at our last borrowing rate, our most recent borrowing rate, which I think I've written, I think it's close to 5.5. Oh, 295. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Any strong opinions one way or the other around the room?
I think the devil we know is better than the devil we don't. And so I would lean towards bite the bullet now, acquire a new or new to us / refurbished bridge, as opposed to run a greater than zero risk of a couple years down the road, having 1 to 3 back-to-back crises related to bridges. So I would lean towards acquire a new or refurbished.
Commissioner Thompson?
I agree.
Best deal you can, just like beer.
I differ, I would go refurbished, because I have great confidence in refurbishment, that's what I do for a living.
Fair enough, I was waiting for you to say that, actually. I mean, I can be persuaded towards the new ones. I think we have consensus in that direction.
They look
If
in
that's
there
what
when
we
they
want.
get their inspection, they examine the bearings and
They can't get into the bearings. We know that our guys thought it was a bearing when they came up, rotating, listening to what's going on in there. They confirmed it's a bad bearing. So we know we have to do that, or that thing can't seize, and we know we have to reinforce the cab. And so those things are necessities. We should, if we do anything at all, we should replace the operating system. All of the other bridges, we have the same operating system. That's an older manual system. So Delta actually operates 2 different systems between their 2 gates. So we'd like those to be the same so that as they're training, we have had some damage events, right? I mean, last year we had 2 damage events involving planes and loading bridges. I think in the last 10 years we've had 3 or 4. So we want as much commonality of these things as we can get, so that we limit the opportunity for damage.
With one slightly differing opinion, does anybody have any further comments? Versus used? Okay, I guess with that said, would someone like to make a motion to acquire a loading bridge for Gate 2 for a cost not to exceed $850,000?
So moved.
I have a motion. Any additional comments? Can I get a second?
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of acquiring the loading bridge for Gate 2 for a cost not to exceed $850,000, say aye.
Aye.
And nay. The ayes have it. All right. Item number, where we at? 4, parking ticket dispenser.
Yeah, the parking lot, most of the ticket dispensers were purchased by Republic when they ran the lot. I think these parking dispensers are probably in excess of 15 years old. And so we're looking to acquire one parking station, ticket dispenser station. Our thinking is then we'll have one, take the current one out, send the parts out to refurbish, and we'll have a full station available when something breaks or someone mows something over. We'll have something to go out and deploy pretty quickly, and so it's going to cost us about $25,000 to get a new dispenser. There's 3 or 4 components in there. There's like the ticket dispenser itself. There's an intelligence unit, or a CPU, and a couple other components in there. So if we have an extra of those on hand, and if we lose a ticket dispenser, the actual component in there, we should be able to slide one in there that we take off the shelf, so we'll have a spare around. We had an outage that lasted about a month this year, and it created mass confusion out of the parking lot. We at first tried to get everyone to go to the other entrance for the long term, but then what they kept doing was just going over to the short term, and so we got a lot of complaints because people were getting home and they had, $12 a day parking bills, which is unusual for us. And so we tried to fix as many of those as people called and said, hey, look, I tried to go in the other lot, I got confused, I got in the wrong lot. So we fixed a bunch of those. We don't want to do that again. We ultimately ended up closing that entire entrance because we felt it was easier to send everybody to the second set of entrances, because there they could pick up the signage again and figure out where they were trying to go. That seemed to work a little better, but if we can avoid that altogether by simply having some components on hand that we can trade in, that's a better situation for our passengers. And so we'd like to spend $25,000 to go out and buy a new unit. That's complete with the cabinet and all the components inside. That'll give us a chance to refurbish the one we have and have it available for parts.
I'm gonna have to confess to being a little confused here. Which ticket dispenser is under consideration right here? I thought there's like one at each of the entrances, right?
There is. We want to acquire one for the main lot entry.
Okay.
So almost all the passengers typically come in over here. The Canadians have gotten pretty savvy, I noticed, about coming to the second one, because usually there's parking very close to the building available over in that lobe of the parking lot. It used to be just full of Canadians. But most of the people come in over here on the main long-term lot. But the pieces that go into those machines should be interchangeable. So if we lost a short-term, we could go out and take the refurbished pieces and put them in the short-term dispenser. So replacing the one, the workhorse, that one main long-term lot one, would give us a new one there and then give us parts that we could use on any of the others. But I think, if we about 15 years, what I was talking to Ryan about the other day is, I think these probably are 15 years, we need to start replacing them. Over here, they probably could last another, they might go 20 years, a little longer. So we're not going to get in a cycle of getting these replaced, saving good components, and then working our way over here. It used to be Republic did all that for us as part of their concession contract. They were responsible for equipment modifications, and we would meet every time the contract expired and say, okay, we want to replace these things, and then that would go into the new contract. And so now that we operate the lot, we've got to do those things ourselves. And we bought a pay station, which we're going to be deploying here pretty soon, to replace the one pay station we bought about 10 years ago or more. That old pay station, we're actually going to move inside, and then that'll be an opportunity for us to try out pay on foot to see how many people would even be interested in that. I think if we get some of the people used to, hey, I'm waiting for my bag anyway, I can pay here, then we can deploy kind of dumb exit modules along the exit road, so that to take the pressure off the toll plaza, so that is just a ticket reader. Those are like the cheapest piece of equipment that we can get for like $8,000. It's just a little box that sits on a pole. So if we can deploy a couple of those, that'll take the pressure off the more infrastructure at the toll plaza and give us more capacity overall. So it's part of kind of a broader scheme to see if we can kind of take some of this equipment, begin replacing it, use the old stuff to continue to create value, and see if we can't create more overall flexibility for us to replace something that gets broken when we're in the middle of a busy time. I mean, having a toll plaza down, one of the machines down during Christmas, you know, with only 3 of them, the lines do start backing up. So if we have another pay station inside, you know, that's a capacity enhancement. If we have more parts over here for a ticket speeder that goes down, that's a capacity enhancement. It just keeps us kind of rolling.
Is enough? Any additional comments, questions on the parking ticket dispenser? All right. Can I have a motion to purchase a new ticket dispenser for the daily parking lot for a cost not to exceed $25,000?
I move.
Got a motion. Any additional comments? Can I have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. The ayes have it. Item number 5, emergency capital repair exit lane monitoring system.
We had an outage on the exit lane monitoring system in the last month. The system's been in place since we opened the checkpoint in 2013. It's been fairly flawless, really doesn't cause us many issues. But the video capture portion of the system failed. We talked to the vendor. They think we should update the firmware. We need to get some new licenses for their latest operating system and that kind of thing, and replace some of the computer componentry. It's going to cost us about $60,000 to do that enhancement to that system. Hopefully, that's going to last us another 15 years to continue to keep that system in place. I don't think anybody was on the board at the time we opened that exit lane. It was never in the plans to do the exit that way. The wall that's in front of the exit was supposed to be completely open. It used to be TSA had a person and staff in the exit lane to prevent somebody from going up the exit lane. As we were within days of opening that checkpoint, TSA nationally said they would no longer staff those positions, and so we had to come up with a solution. I was familiar with Exit Century from Colorado Springs, where we had a similar system. Day to day, it's pretty bomb-proof, but like anything else, it seems like this is the year of it. It breaks the third time, and you have to replace componentry. And so we're due to do that. In order to do that, we're going to have to replace some of the licenses and computer componentry to be functional with their current stuff, and that's going to cost us about $60,000.
What are you doing now?
They've been rebooting it, and so far they've had to reboot multiple times to get it to come back up a couple times. So, you know, reboot, nothing happens, reboot again, and then it's been coming back up. But the vendor doesn't think that'll likely continue. At some point, it's just not going to come back up. And then in that case, it's going to have to be a manual process. So we'll have to wrestle with TSA over who's going to do that. I think we have a pretty good case that they have to do it, but it will draw down on our screening capacity. So they'll have to station someone out of the checkpoint over there, which means our screening will slow down.
But there is a Band-Aid fix right now.
So far, it
It's
continues
just
to come back
in
up.
there now, and it's about a 60-day turnaround
Yeah.
to get it repaired.
But the video capture part still isn't working, is it?
Right, yeah.
So right now, it will alarm. We're not able to play back the incident, which
So-
is not.
At that point, you're clearing the course and rescreening everyone?
Well, most of the time when it alarms, the TSA looks through the window and sees what happens. Because it alarms right down near the elbow where you turn. If you're coming out of security where you turn right past the fish wall, that's where the camera trap is. And so, most of the time when that alarms, they look over and see, oh, some kid ran up to see his grandma, up the exit lane. And so they're able to, walk around the wall, tell the kid, go back the way you came, problem solved. It's when no one sees what happens that we have to dump the concourse, because we don't have video capture now. So if the alarm goes off, maybe someone threw something down there, and no one saw it, they're gonna have to dump the concourse. But once we get the video back up, obviously it'll show you fast-moving object, here's what it is, and they can vet it that way.